Okay, thank you, everybody. And I have to start off by saying it is the 4th of July or the 5th of July. And, I think my ego has been declaring its independence from the rest of my life, most of my life. And um, I really want to declare my dependence. I really want to declare my dependence on AA, my dependence on certainly on higher power, um, my dependence on our literature, my dependence on things like Emmett Fox. I just think he's a wonderful spiritual writer. He just makes things so interesting for me. And so, at any rate, going to talk a little bit about primary purpose before we get into um, the reading of the Emmett Fox material. And I just noticed as we were going through the opening readings how much of this stuff is talking about purpose. Purpose of your life is the training of your soul. Purpose of your life is to trust, love, and serve your Creator. Um, in number three, if the purpose of this thing is that we can form this relationship upon simple and understandable terms with this higher power thing. And then number four, it's really saying you've got only two alternatives: living to God's purpose for your life or living to your ego's purpose for your life. And I didn't really get this till I'm feeling so bad that I want to end my life, and realizing, well, that's not, that can't be in sync with a loving creator's purpose. My God didn't create me for me to take my own life. But the problem is lack of power is always the problem at the bottom of the problem. That I lacked power over my own ego's self-recriminating, judgmental, hateful mind, and it was hating on me. It wasn't hating on you. It was hating on me, and that had me incapacitated, laying in bed 20 hours a day, because I had no alternative, had no power. And it's what got me better understanding of powerlessness and better understanding that I needed to ask God for the power. And this, that reading number one, accept this, well, reject, uh, accept this belief and a wonderful molding of character takes place. That's talking about hands-on molding of character. Emmett Fox is going to say later on, prayer really does change things. It changes your fundamental orientation to your life, which is one of the things that we try to do by asking certain questions. The big question is, God, how can I best serve thee? And the statement, thy will, not my ego's will, be done. So, in some ways, at least for me, I'm trying to gain power over my ego's will for me, so that I can do God's will for me. God, Emmett Fox is going to say when we get to those readings, you are an expression of God right here, right now. Am I living that way? Because normally I'm not. I'm doing what Jack's ego wants me to do to try to feel good. At least I could recognize when I'm in the depression that the only thing my ego really wants, it wants to live as long as it can, which means it's self-preserving, which means I'm battling my own thought system as to what I am, unwilling to accept the mystery that I don't know what I oh, I'll read you this. Get this. This is page 49 of the big book. Instead of regarding ourselves as intelligent agents, spearheads of God's ever advancing creation, we atheists and agnostics choose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and end of all. Rather vain of us, wasn't it? I just think this is an outstanding statement of my only two alternatives. I either believe my own thinking and act on it, or I try to invite God into my life and develop a relationship with God. And you can skip agnostics, and they're just declaring their independence from God, and choosing to believe that my thinking. And then the problem is I lose power over my own thinking to drive my life. And so we always come back to, if as soon as I can admit I am powerless over my own thinking. And of course, remember, everybody's going to say, you've got your conscious thinking, but you've also got your subconscious thinking. And that's beneath your level of awareness. And if your life is getting driven by your subconscious thinking, um, the only thing we can do is to try to bring that subconscious thinking up to consciousness so we can let it go, or pray for its removal. And that's the work of psychotherapy. That's the work of the steps. We're trying to bring all of these often unconscious resentments and fears and sense of remorse, feeling bad about ourselves. We're trying to bring them to consciousness so we can do something about it. So let's see. Let's get going. Oh yeah, another one. Another statement of primary purpose. You've heard this before. It's at the top of page 77 of the big book, talking about amends. And it says, at the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose, whoa, listen up. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Um, Nothing to do with how I'm going to feel about my own life. Um, to fit myself to be of maximum service to God assumes that I've made a decision to try to turn my will and my life over the care of God as I understand God. I mean, it doesn't, I'm not going to fit myself to be of maximum service if I haven't decided that that's what I want to do. And why I think it's so extraordinary that step 10 at the end says, here's what you're supposed to be thinking about all day long. God, how can I best serve you? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. This is the proper use of the human will. Emmett Fox is going to talk today about practicing the presence of God. And we have that little 3-part formula: quit playing God, invite God in, do as directed. Um, a great way to approach the whole deal. I got to stop living on my ego's version of my life. I've got to invite my creator, my higher power in and say, okay, why am I here? What do you want me to do? I can't read this often enough. It's not about you. This is Rick Warren. It's not about you. The purpose of your life is far greater than your own personal fulfillment, your peace of mind, or even your happiness. What? That's ridiculous. It's far greater than your family, your career, or even your wildest dreams and ambitions. If you want to know why you were placed on this planet, you must begin with God. And then this statement, this is his statement, you were born by God's purpose for God's purpose. And that's going to quickly take you to the issue, do I think I created myself? Am I a creation of a higher power, or did I create myself? And we talked about it a lot. My experience with this is I don't want to admit that I'm created, because I want to go on that I created myself, and therefore I can do what I want. I don't have to ask God, how can I best serve you? And here's the trick for me. I did create my ego. God didn't create my ego. In some ways, you can relate this whole story of Adam and Eve to their creation of their own ego. That's what starts the fall, or establishes the fall. If I think I created myself and I can do what I want, I don't have to turn to God for anything. So I find this is, you must begin with God. You were born by God's purpose. Was I born for God's purpose? And if I was, what is that purpose? And what I love for me, I get two purposes out of our, well, it's all the same. Um, that I am to let God demonstrate through me what God can do. It says it on page 68. It says it at the end of the third step prayer. Um, Take away my difficulties, that my victory over these difficulties will demonstrate your power, your love, your way of life. Page 68 says, um, we never apologize for God. Instead, we let God demonstrate through us what God can do. Um, that's just a radically different approach to life than trying to solve whatever my ego presents as the problem of the day, the struggle of the day. Okay, we're going to go to Emmett Fox, and if you do have this paperwork in front of you, I'm on page 11 of the PDF, and on this page 11, where am I on page 11? Yes, right there. Okay, we're on number 10, where Emmett is addressing the question, "Who are you?" And this is his answer. This is, remember, all of this stuff is coming from one of his books, and it's all in the reader around the year with Emmett Fox. And let me go back to the first page. Emmett Fox on prayer. That's on page 1. Selections come from his book, Make Your Life Worthwhile, and I put the page number of the book in there. And if there is a date that also appears in the Daily Reader around the year with Emmett Fox. So this number 10 was on page 105. It's not in the reader. Who are you? The real you is a spiritual being, perfect, eternal, incorruptible. It takes me right to, I know my mind is alcoholic and my body is alcoholic. My body can't process alcohol normally, and my mind seeks relief and denies the fact that I can't drink safely. I don't think my soul is alcoholic. I don't think my soul has any problem with alcohol. I don't think my soul, is relying on its own thinking that way. I do think my soul is perfect, eternal, and incorruptible. I'm not sure why my soul is here. I know what Ignatius says is, well, when you're feeling faith and hope and love, you're acting on why God has you here. And then I find that I can, when I do things like go to a meeting or go off on my boat or have a pleasant social experience, and I feel faith and hope and love, I feel useful. I don't feel doubt and fear and despair. That's telling me I am living close to God's purpose for my life, God's self expression. Real you is a spiritual being, perfect, eternal, incorruptible. Real you is a living expression of God itself. He says himself, but expressing God's qualities. You are part of God's self expression. I love this. God sings a song, and that song is you. Um, isn't that nice? God's singing a song through me. Um, Number 11, prayer does change things. Where our things are meetings, prayer and meditation, service. That's how we overcome the human ego, by doing these things. Prayer does change. Seeing the presence of God where the trouble seems to be changes the trouble into harmony. Just a beautiful statement the Jesuits have this thing about seeing God everywhere, or seeing God in all things. That I'm trying to invite the presence of God into my own life, specifically, but I'm trying to see God everywhere else as well. Prayer brings man his salvation by changing his nature fundamentally, not by making the best of him as he is. Prayer opens the way to new and better things. It does not patch up the old things. Um, and then this next number 12, it's talking about these words, understanding and effectiveness. And you may remember that on page um, 84 of the big book, at the start of step 10, it says, we have entered the world of the spirit, saying we've had a spiritual awakening. We've had some kind of conscious contact so that we know the God thing is for real. It's not just a concept. Um, and then our book says, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. What that means to me is to grow in the mental understanding of what my life is actually all about, and the effectiveness of my behavior. That I'm doing effective behavior, whatever that happens to be, rather than ineffective. So this is Emmett addressing these same things. So understanding, knowing that God is the only power, that evil is insubstantial. Remember, resist not evil, because you only make it stronger. That we form our own destiny by our thoughts and beliefs. Well, you know, to me, that smacks of self reliance. What I'm really trying to do is to live to, I'm not sure even what destiny's got to have to do with destination and where I want to wind up. Where I want to wind up, destination for me is on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. That's what I want. Um, let's see. Conditions do not matter when we pray. That's interesting. That time and space and matter are human illusions. They are mental illusions. That there is a solution to every problem. That man is the child of God and God is perfect good. Effectiveness, demonstrating over a difficulty by knowing the truth about it. Each time we do this, God teaches us something new. Okay, number 13, when you pray, you plug into God's powerhouse. And that's wonderful because lack of power is our dilemma. So this is where I'm going to get power. And step 11 is so beautifully praying only for knowledge of why has God got me here? Um, and the power to carry that out. I'm praying for power. Let's see. Daily prayer, when established as a habit, becomes an unbreakable lifeline. The strongest prayer of all is an unselfish visit with God. That means I ain't asking for anything. I'm just trying to be in God's presence. Um, I don't know. My life has changed so since this depression, because I think that's the first time I really understood that this power could restore me to sanity. I don't think I really got that. I think I was telling myself I was sane, which is insane itself. um, I'm much more able to laugh today at my own insanity. The strongest prayer of all is an unselfish visit with God. When prayer becomes a burden, it's time to quit. If your mind seems waterlogged, read some spiritual literature. Be receptive to God. Don't always be talking to Him. Try to listen as well. Be still and know this is God. Pray gently. Do not rush to God. Go calmly and without reservation. One of the lines in How It Works that just boggles my mind. We stood at the turning point. We asked God's protection and care with complete abandon. I don't want to be abandoned. Um, and I asked God's protection and care, but I got all kinds of reservations, and I got a few demands too. God, I want this, I want that, I need this, I need that. Um, Go calmly and without reservation is a worthy goal. Okay, I'm turning the page to page 12 now of that handout if you got it. Oh, good. Number 14. Jesus said, "It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven." I always wondered that, and I thought it was like a Zen koan. What the frig is the eye of the needle, or what are they talking about? You can't get a camel through the eye of the needle. And then he explains at nighttime, the large door in a walled city was closed. Approved travelers would go in and out through a low wicket gate set in the big door. The gate was known as the Needle's Eye. Oh, when a laden camel arrived after sunset, the only way it could get in was to be unloaded. See, that's what we're unloading our unconscious mind of all our stuff, unloaded of all merchandise, whereupon it would squirm on its knees through the Needle's Eye and enter the city. A rich man must be unloaded of his possessions of knowledge, property, friends, position, if he is to enter the kingdom of heaven, free of reliance on human power. Wow. Isn't that a nice statement of that thing, and makes it so much more understandable? Number 15, bear in mind now, Fox is an Irish Catholic. He was brought up in Ireland and came to the United States before he was 30, I think. Or maybe I'm confused. It was 1929 when he came to the States. Also a electrical engineer. He had an engineering education. This doesn't sound very Catholic. Uh, Jesus Christ was infinitely beyond us in the degree of his unfoldment, but he was not different from us in nature. He was a human being, tempted like us in all respects. He is our elder brother who came to earth to show us the way, and by his own demonstration to make it possible for us to follow. But he was human, like ourselves. We do not say that Jesus was not God. We say that Jesus was God, but so are you. So am I. We are sparks of the divine, gods in embryo. With understanding and practice, with faith and faithfulness, we will demonstrate our true nature, that we are all one in God. And then he quotes John. Isn't that nice? It's not like Jesus is the only one, and the only way I can get to God is through him. I do believe the only way I can get to God is by doing what the stuff that he did and living the life the way he lived his life. I do believe that. And then you get into all of the vagaries of translation and the recording of all this stuff initially 2,000 years ago. Who knows what he actually said? I got a little one going where they were trying to trip him up on the which was the most important or the greatest of Moses's 10 commandments, and he didn't say any one of them. He said the most important thing is that you love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. And then talked about a second commandment was to love your neighbor as yourself. What if they're the same thing? That what he's saying is the way you love God is by loving your neighbor. Loving creation instead of criticizing it or wanting it somehow to be different than it is. Okay, let's see. When you were growing up, well-meaning people told you many negative things by way of warning, thereby implanting fears. And these fears are with you today, consciously or subconsciously. Other problems you brought here with you when you were born. You meet your fears dramatized. The things that we feel in our hearts have a way of coming to us in the guise of other people's acts. To heal these symptoms, we pray for removal and ask for redirection. That's what our big book tells us. Pray daily for peace of mind, for wisdom, for understanding of God. The more often you visit with God, the more happiness you will have in your life. Um, Number 17, God is infinite and eternal perfection. God is not progressing or improving. What improves is our understanding of God. And as this happens, our conditions improve. There is no lack in divine mind. All lack is but our failure to realize the presence of God in some particular situation. There are no delays for the Holy One. You are God's expression, but you can delay your realization of your present good. Reminds me of that wonderful sign over Carl Jung's office door: bidden or unbidden, God is present. You know, and it's like we talk about conscious contact, which, by the way, came from Emmett Fox. Um, Conscious contact implies unconscious contact. What I'm doing is God is present, and I'm just becoming aware of it. I deny, it's interesting to me. A major problem for us is denial. We deny the truth of certain things. We deny that we can't drink safely, and we keep trying to drink safely. Um, we deny the presence of God. We deny the reality of God by choosing to believe other stuff. We're just practicing contempt prior to investigation and denying the reality of God in our lives. I'm at the bottom of page 12 and in number 17. God is continually expressing itself in new ways, but this is not improvement, it is unfoldment. Your life is part of this unfoldment. It is the only reason for you existing at all. Oh, you are the living expression of God now. To understand this is salvation. To feel this, your life as God's expression is conscious contact. Sorry to be doing so much reading, but it's just wonderful stuff, and I'm trying to add something when it seems appropriate. On page 13, and he starts with number 18 of this presentation, is 7 basic points. There is only one cause, the great creative spirit, God. God is infinite power and intelligence and can do anything at any time, regardless of conditions. The nature of God is perfect goodness and perfect love. God acts only to heal, liberate, inspire. Um, I guess I could say the nature of the human mind is to be self-centered. My human nature is to allow my mind to dwell only on me, and I do believe it all starts with fear. Um, that I feel an instinctive. I don't feel my soul fears, um, but my human body experiences fear, and it's part of this It's part of the preservation instinct. And the problem is when it gets up into my mind and my sense of a separate self starts trying to solve my fear problem. Um, I believe, at least for me, fear is where the ego starts, and it starts trying to solve my fear problem. Um, this is certainly a different way of looking at that. You on no, number 18, 7 basic points. Number 4, you are a center for the expression of God where you are right now. You are an individualization of God, but you have to discover and gradually realize this fact. So it's very interesting. He does a wonderful thing on the 7 aspects of God in one of his books, and that God's ability to individualize means, I think, that first of all, that individual means undivided. It doesn't mean divided; it means undivided, and that I am a seemingly separate part of God's expression, but I am, because I am an individualized expression of God, I seem separate. I seem to have borders, but it's not true. Um, you are a center for the expression of God where you are right now. You are an individualization of God, but you have to discover and gradually realize this fact for yourself. And my claim is my ego does not want me to realize this fact because that would take all its power away. Um, Number 5, you surround yourself with your image and likeness. Your real beliefs, which are mostly subconscious, are expressed in your body and surroundings. Number 6, if you are doing your best to live the spiritual life, most of your difficulties today are not caused by your present wrong thinking, but come from the distant past to be cleared up in this life that you may be free of them forever. That's the same idea again, buried in the subconscious. I don't even know why I do the stuff I do, and I'm attracted to the stuff I'm attracted to. Number 7, the last of these. I'm going to get through number 19 and then we'll have some open discussion. 7, your troubles are not due to sin, but are caused by lack of understanding, well-intentioned mistakes based on our self-centered thinking. Um, to wipe out the results of sin, sin must be abandoned. That's an interesting idea. Okay, last one, number 19. God is your best friend. You know, it's just I, Bill Wilson was genius in his own way around this stuff, and you know, when you work on that 3-step formulation, quit playing God, invite God in, do as directed. It's on, starts at the bottom of page 62, and it's part of the 3rd step prompt. Do as directed is part of the 3rd step promises before the 3rd step prayer. Um, we invite God in as our director and we're the actor, as our uh, principal and we're the agent, as our parent and we're the child, or as our friend. It's another place. It's deep down reality just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. God is friend. God is your best friend, always present, always ready to help and guide. And God never fails. God has every quality of personality except its limitations. Think of God as a loving parent or a loving boss or a loving director or a loving friend. Think of God as a loving parent, always ready to heal and comfort. God's nature is perfect divine love. Turn to this love today in the same spirit as if you were 5 or 6 years old. Wow. Um, Actually, I'll read number 20 just because. Keep your prayers as simple as a child's prayer, uh, as simple as possible in manner and in thought, simple, direct, spontaneous. As soon as prayer becomes complicated, literary, or high flown, it becomes an intellectual exercise as it loses its spiritual power. Okay, so happy 4th of July. I am just so, I'm an old man now, but I am just so grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. It's just so changed everything that I feel about my life and the people in my life. And I've been convinced for a long time that, at least for me, prayer is the most important component. I know service is a vital tool in that question, God, how can I best serve thee, can keep me out of a lot of trouble. Um, But everything for me has started with prayer and learning how to pray and taking prayer seriously and allowing prayer to work in my life. And ultimately, I would hope that my life would is a prayer to my higher power to best serve thee and to express God, um, in a positive way. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to gong this gong, and we're going to have some open discussion.
Do I stop the recording?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't. I could have done it.
We're
Here, I'll do it.
okay.